In the last video, you learned how to pan out your concentrates from one pan into another. In this video, we're going to show you some more advanced methods of doing that, time-saving tricks, and a way of using another, even better tool that really saves you a lot of time, called a blue bowl, which you'll see over there in that corner of the picture right now. So this is my bowl of concentrates, which I got out of my sloughs. Now this is about 2 or 3 days worth of sampling. Not really any concentrated work, but there's still a fair amount of gold in here. And one of the things you're going to notice when you're just panning back and forth from pan to pan to get your concentrates clean is that you have a lot of trouble because the big rocks, by big I mean like 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch in diameter, are around your black sand, and those mess up your gold flow. So you're trying to wash it out, and you have this little rock in there. And it's small enough to go through the big screen, but not so small that it doesn't get in your way. So what you can do is you can get rid of those by running it through a classifying screen. Now this is a -20 screen. That means it has 20 lines per inch in the screen. So when you drop your rocks through there, the big stuff stays on top. The rest of it drops out in your pan. You can pan that out separately. Now this is window screen. You can buy these at a gold store. They usually come in -30, -60, -100, etc., depending on how many lines per inch you got. Those cost about $12 to $15 a piece, and they're about this big, about this depth. That's kind of expensive, and you really don't need to do it. All you need to do is just look around at various hardware stores, dollar stores, any place like that might have screens, kitchen goods. A lot of places like that have small, fine screens that you can run through. This piece here is a -30 screen, which is finer than the -20, so it gets out the smaller rocks. And this cost me $1. It came out of a large screen thing. I don't know what it was for, but it had a handle on it. I just cut it out and used it for this. Now you can put that on the end of a pipe like this by taking a cap or a coupling for this pipe, like I did here, and just putting the screen on there and forcing the coupling or the cap down over top of it, and then cutting it off right above the screen. And that's how I built this. It's pretty easy to do that way. Now this is a very fine screen. This is probably -60 here. So this is for the really fine stuff. And these are graduated to 20, 30, and 60. I don't go down to the 100 because you really don't need to go that far with what we're doing. So what I do, take this and set it in the pan. Take your concentrates, dump it in. It's going to be stuck in the bottom, so you're going to have a little bit of trouble getting it out. Then I fill this up with water. This is my gold one. It's clean right now. There's nothing in it. And just kind of squirt all the stuff out of the top that I can. Wash it down in there. If you miss a piece, it's not the end of the world because you're going to be putting more gold-bearing stuff in it next week. So now that's in there. We take it, you shake it back and forth like that so that the water washes through it. Just remember to move it around in a circle so you don't just walk in one spot and wind up with all your materials in one place. When you don't see any more fine stuff and all you see left is large, you take it out and take another gold pan. This is why I have 2 or 3 pans around. Take it and dump. Now while it's upside down, take it and I squirt water out. So I can refill my bottle here and squirt it down so it runs down to the bottom of this. Now you got to watch in this particular design that your gold doesn't get stuck up underneath these edges, because a lot of times you'll see little rocks, like I see there's a little piece of gold right there. So I try to blow that out of there, not wanting to come. So I can pick up the screen a little bit, tap. Okay, now it's gone. I just heard it clink in the pan. You know, I tell the sound of gold, it's a little bit louder than everything else because it's so big and fat. Okay, so all the gold is out of there now. I'm going to rinse this on the edge like that. Make sure all the stuff off the sides comes out. Okay, now this pan only has large rocks and things like that in it. So this is a pretty large gravel that came out through that -20 screen. So any large pieces of gold we have are going to wind up in here. And we're going to pan this as usual. I'll show you that in just a second. And see what's in there. So now I'm settling down the rock just like I ordinarily would. Now, once it's settled really well, tilt up like this, and then just wash up off of it. You're going to keep an eye on this because these pieces of gold are going to be large enough they'll be easy to see in the pan. Just make sure that nothing gets past that line that you haven't seen. If you did it right, the gold should all be in the bottom, so you shouldn't be seeing anything quite yet. Go ahead and shake this down to get out of your way. Sometimes I do that. I didn't see all the pieces that went through here, so I'm going to finger that around. Okay, now I'm starting to see some nice stuff coming up over here. Just continue washing. Make sure those gold pieces don't disappear on me. They're so heavy they don't really like to jump around very much. Okay. I get the rest of the stuff down out of the way. And just shake this around so you get all the black sand away from it. And these qualify as pickers. I can pick these up out of the pan easily, like that, and put them right in the vial. They may or may not fit into my snifter bottle. I think some of them will. There goes one. Yep, they do all fit. That one kind of got clogged, but it went on right through. And this is where you need to take your snifter bottle in case one gets clogged in there. Put it almost all the way up, and then let go. And that way, any gold that gets stuck up here will drop down into your gold snifter. Now this is a piece of lead. We don't want it. So now, just to make sure I didn't miss any pieces, because these pieces are large enough, I don't want to risk missing them. I'm going to resettle over here, and then I'm going to do this again. And if I don't see anything, then I'm going to throw this away, out in the yard somewhere. Alright, so I've got minus 20 gold in the snifter bottle now. And now we're going to work on separating this into the minus 30s, and the minus 60s, and anything below that. So I take this one, set it in this pan. You want to get it settled down into the bottom end so it's easy to pour out of here. I want to try to avoid spilling off the outside edge. You can see we've got a lot of black sand in that, because this is several days worth of concentrates. And then shake as before. Twisting helps. Now this process, if you have to do a whole lot of gold, can get a little bit tedious because it can be kind of hard to get all the gold out. It gets too much dirt in here, the water doesn't sift through it, and it's hard for it to separate it. And that's why sometimes, in some ways, you're better off not having the pipe and not having this whole structure and just pouring your gold concentrate into this. Because if you dump it into this, go ahead and show you here, it's not always sifted out yet. Just lay that down in the pan you want to classify out of. Dump all that in there. A water hose at this point makes this a little nice to clean it out, because you're going to have some stuff to the side otherwise. Alright. And now you just pour it up so that there's no holes left in it. The gold can't pour out any end or any corner. And then you just shake around like this. It washes it out 3 or 4 times faster, and it's really fast and really easy. Of course, the one thing you got to watch out for is the edges of these are kind of sharp and it can poke you. But if you make sure that's okay, it does a much better job. So now this stuff here will run through the blue bowl, and this will be our first batch that we run through there. Set it right there so don't lose any of it. This we'll classify again back into here. Now, you don't really have to be this obsessive with classifying it out. But if you want to catch all the gold, or at least the vast majority of it, you're going to have to classify it, because a given piece of gold is 5 times heavier than these other rocks we're working with. But what that means is, if you have a rock that's 5 times the size of a given piece of gold, it's going to be just as heavy as that piece of gold is. So a pebble, a 1/4 inch around, is going to weigh the same as a very small picker. And that means that the amount of water it takes to get rid of that pebble is all the same amount of water it takes to get rid of that piece of gold. Which means that whatever it takes to get your gold really clean is also going to be throwing away some of your gold. And so by classifying it into batches, so everything that you're working with in each batch is basically the same size, you make sure that the gold's much heavier weight will win out, and the gold will be left behind, and all the lighter stuff will all easily wash away. Now you've got 3 grades. You've got stuff that will fit through a minus 20 screen, stuff that will fit through a minus 30 screen, and stuff that will fit through a minus 60 screen. So these are successively grades as finer and finer material, and the gold in them is going to be the same size. So now we're going to move to the blue bowl. I'm going to show you how that works, and then we're going to wash it out and see how clean they can get it.